What's up, everybody? Hello. Welcome to the Hustling Sideways podcast. I'm Alan Halas. I'm a music writer.
And I'm Jim Love, and I'm a keynote and motivational speaker.
And it is episode 52.
52, which means there are 52 weeks in a year.
Yes.
Which means that if we do a show bi-weekly,
yes,
it is 2 years of Hustling Sideways.
Correct. We totally knew that ahead of time.
Before the show. Yeah, we were fine. We didn't have to make the guests remind us 10 seconds before the show started. No,
not the slightest.
No, we're really honored to be here after 2 years. Honored that you're still here after 2 years. And if you're new to the show, I know I'm doing like the breakdown before we even start. Thank you for being here. And it's really, we're really happy. We have some great stuff coming for 2023. Some of y'all are going to find that out soon. If you have been listening to the show, you already know what's going on. But we're going to be recording this show in a different place pretty soon for a couple of shows, and we're excited about that. I might as well just say what we're doing.
I was going to say last week they saw we were at Marquette.
Yes, they did. So we are we have a sponsorship with the 707 Hub on Marquette University's campus. That's a small Jesuit university in Milwaukee that we are all quite fond of.
So it's a nation that's spans
Go
from
for it.
6th Street on
the east to
20th
20th Street.
20th Street on the
my
west.
God, you're ruining the whole song. Yeah,
I should pray.
You
That's
should
what I
really
should do.
pray.
Yeah.
Wow, that went well.
Anyway,
so on that note, we are so excited. That was so bad.
It's good that we did that here
Correct.
and not on
Not
stage.
there. That would have been really bad there. Yeah. Side note, don't do that when we get there. But we're going to have a couple of shows for the 707 Hub, all live with an audience. It's going to be different for us, and it's going to be wild, and we're really excited. So
Jim has literally been booking episodes today.
I have.
You've booked basically 3 episodes today.
Yeah.
So
I'm not going to say I'm carrying the booking team, but I'm carrying the booking team. Yeah, it's fine.
Anyway, we got a great guest
We
today.
do. Tell us more about him. Yes.
So this is a guest that I guess I met through Catholic Financial Life, where we were interns.
Same here.
Same as Jim.
Yeah. So this is our commonality with the guest here.
Yeah,
Back in when we were 19, as you know, as wonderful, naive freshmen.
Yes.
And now we're just, terrible, naive 32-year-olds. But we met our next guest, who I'll let you introduce.
He is a manager of supply chain at Milwaukee Tool, and as well as a serial entrepreneur.
And that is serial as an SERIAL, not.
He might enjoy cereal.
Maybe he does. We'll find out if he likes cereal.
Anyway, it is Bill McCormick.
Oh.
Thank you for joining us. Yes.
Drop my beer.
There we go. Yeah.
Welcome, Bill.
There we go.
Welcome, Bill.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm very excited.
Well, now we got to know, do you eat cereal?
Yeah, that's a question.
I am a big fan of cereal, but I have not had a bowl of cereal in probably a decade.
Oh my gosh. If you're that big of a fan, I feel like maybe you should enjoy it more often.
It's a nostalgic thing. Reese's Puffs every day before going to school back in the day. That's like my comfort place.
I love that.
Jim, when was the last time you had cereal?
Last week.
Okay, you got me beat.
You didn't think I was going to say it? Yeah, Alan, I was going to say 2 years ago. No, I literally like cereal. I'm a fan of it, so I have it more often than a decade. No offense, Bill.
None taken.
Good. Well, we're so excited you're here. Obviously, let's start with our commonality that we have. I was going to say in common, but that would be what's the word?
Close enough. Anyway,
yeah.
We all met at Catholic Financial Life insurance agency that we worked at. I knew of Bill beforehand. Actually.
I did not. Yeah, but that's good.
Because I knew of a band that he played in, but I didn't really know him like personally until I think probably the first week that he was working with us, because I came on first and then he came on afterwards.
Yeah.
And I think I finally got the nerve to be like, "You're in a band, right?"
It's a good pickup line, isn't it?
And I didn't want to say it, but I totally knew that he was. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's how I met Bill. That's how we first hit it off.
Bill, were you smitten by that question? You were like, "You're damn right, I'm in a band."
I think I probably just tried to play it off. I don't do well with attention, which sounds very strange for somebody who's like, "Yeah, put me on stage, give me a guitar, like let's go to town." But yeah, I don't remember exactly how I reacted in that moment, but it was probably a split moment of fear, like, "Oh my God, he knows me." Shit.
So we had many great times there. Specifically, one of my favorite days was when there was a Catholic Financial Life Christmas party, and no one told the interns, and so many of us showed up with no one in the office. So you talk about a free day of doing nothing.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
I was just there. I watched the Dave Chappelle Killing Them Softly stand-up special like all the way through on YouTube for 2.5 hours, and that was my. Don't tell them, but they paid me about $26 to do that.
What are they gonna do? Fire you now?
Good point.
Right.
Fine use of resources.
I'm
I would
calling
say-
Colleen right now,
That's it.
guys.
Give her a
Yeah.
call. But there actually is a legitimate story that comes out of us being there, and this has to do with Bill and Alan going to a concert
Yes.
or trying to go to a concert.
Trying being the operative word. So we got the idea that we were going to go see this band called The Dangerous Summer in Madison, because Bill knew the band. I had listened to them, but like only got introduced to them through Bill. We took my 1996 Oldsmobile, which also carted Jim
Many
and
games. Yes.
your roommates to
Yes.
many a basketball game at
Oh.
Marquette. We got as far as, it's not Waterford. I forgot the name of the town that it broke down in. But we hit a point where we are driving along, listening to the iPod shuffle that is like plugged into the cassette player.
Nostalgic.
And I believe we were listening to Fall Out Boy, maybe, possibly. on the way.
That sounds extremely accurate.
Yes. And all of a sudden, I feel like I can't turn the car, and I'm like, what's going
Is
on
that
here?
bad
This is
on the
bad.
highway, or is that okay?
And so we hit a point where we both looked at each other and we were like, we should probably pull off to the side of the road. And then Bill goes, yeah, you should probably pull off like right here. There was a curved off ramp, and my steering column just completely locked up.
Oh my god.
Everything was just done for on this car. So we both had to like lean on the wheel to get to the off ramp. And we didn't see the show that night.
Yeah. Moral of the story is you didn't make it.
Did
But
not quite make the show. No.
something
No.
more significant happened as a result of your car breaking down. Look at these ominous
yes.
statements where I'm such a good interviewer. Like,
Right?
oh my gosh.
After my parents got done yelling at me, we got back home, and I was a pouty 19-year-old, probably 20-year-old, I don't know what we were, and was like just up in my room because I was still living at home at the time and just pissed off. And just flipping around on the internet, mad. And I was like, I'm gonna write about, I don't know what prompted me to think maybe I could start a blog. But I started a blog that would eventually become alanhalas.com, which would eventually become breakingandentering.net after that. And the first band I wrote about was The Dangerous Summer. So had my car not broken down with Bill in the car, we would have not, I don't think I'd have a side hustle.
And we wouldn't be doing this podcast.
Well, I wouldn't have a side hustle.
Which that's if A equals B and B equals C, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I've failed out.
shout out to your Oldsmobile for creating this podcast. And Bill, you're on. I mean, look at how the world works like
It's a
that.
big full circle.
The butterfly effect is so crazy with
Great.
this one, right?
That's awesome.
I would have had so much more free time if we decided to not go to that show in Madison.
Yeah. Whose fault is that? But it worked out well in the end, as all things do. So, Bill, let's get to you now. Enough about the Oldsmobile, enough about Dangerous Summer, and enough about damn breaking and entering. That's
Bill, how'd you feel when the car broke down?
yeah. Tell us how terrified you were.
Basically the same that I felt when you said, "Aren't you in a band?"
Yes.
Same emotion. Bill, tell us a little bit about your background, where you come from, and a little bit of your college experience too.
Yeah, so went to college at Marquette, obviously big connection for the three of us. My majors are in marketing and entrepreneurship. Hey, what do you know? I don't think I can say this anymore, but there was a time where I would introduce myself, and just for kicks, I would go, I'm actually one of the top 10 graduates from Marquette University with a degree in entrepreneurship in the university's history.
I never knew that.
Like when you say top 10, do you mean?
Top 10. The caveat is there was a time where they had gotten rid of the program because only 10 people had graduated with that as their major, and I was one of them.
Yeah, you're one of them. That's awesome. I really didn't even know that major existed.
They have since brought it back now. It's a thriving department, and I'm sure people are learning about entrepreneurship and graduating at an extremely high rate. But yeah.
I will say Bill was the first person. That was the first time I actually ever heard of entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I always knew people start businesses and stuff. I had no idea what an entrepreneur was.
Yeah. Well, I think, Bill, your mind works in a way that an entrepreneur's mind. You're always thinking outside the box and like always questioning things and and you're really innovative. So like how have you always been like that? And I know I'm just labeling you in the way that I think your mind works. And if you agree, great. If you don't, great too. But was that something that led you into doing entrepreneurship, or what made you interested in that topic that maybe a lot of 17, 18-year-olds at the time, didn't really know about? Like what was it that stuck out about that major? It was like, I want to do this.
The simple answer would be because it sounded cooler than business administration.
We'll give you that one. That's a good point.
But back when I was playing in this band that Alan had recognized me from, spoiler alert, like I don't have a ton of musical talent. I'm not very good across multiple music instruments or something like that, but we're a high school band that got to do a lot of things that we probably shouldn't have done given the quality of our music, in part because my contribution to the group was thinking about it like a business.
Okay.
Did you know, I'm date myself for a little bit, but did you guys know that back in the MySpace days, there was a limit to the number of friends you could request in a single day?
I did not know that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. The limit was like 400 friends.
And
so I made it my job to essentially broadcast our music out to larger and larger groups of people. So if we were going to play a show, in Greenfield or at Whitnell High School, I remember we played a show there once. Shout out to Whitnell. I would basically 2 weeks before that show, I would every single day be hitting that 400 friend request limit, just going through like, all right, I'm going to request from our little like band MySpace page. Every single person that goes to Whitnell High School is getting a friend request from me and like a message into their inbox that says like, hey, we're a band. We, think you would like our music. You want to come out to the show or whatever. And I didn't really know I was doing it or thinking about it this way at the time, but I treated that band like a business. So,
right.
Jim, to your point, serial entrepreneur from a early age, I was just falling into, I have a product. I want that product is our music, right? I have a target market and a demographic. How am I going to reach that target market and demographic? And how do I engage with them in ways that they find meaningful? And how do I deliver them ultimately an experience, because music's an entertainment product, that is better than the entertainment experience that they could get from somebody else in a similar situation?
I love it. That is like so practical. I will also say that you maybe had originated sliding into the DMs based on that story.
Yeah.
I think you're
an early DM
slider. Yeah. Shout out to you.
I like it.
The way less creepy version, I would imagine, than what now happens.
I would actually say you should just add that to your LinkedIn.
That's the one. That's the
another title, originator or
original DM slider.
You heard it here first. And I will say, I mean, Bill, your breakdown there, it's funny because you mentioned at the top of the show here that you're really connected with both Alan and I's side passions and side hustles and what we do. And your connection with me personally, and I'll let Alan kind of speak to how you guys have talked, is you've always been able to explain what I do in practical terms better than the way I can explain what I do in practical terms. Like the way you just broke that down was so spot on and so business minded, where like I'm like, I go out and I speak, and you're like, you provide a service that's like that. Like you always make it that language where I can then digest it and be like, here's how I can speak to it in a corporate setting versus like I have a ministry. It's just like that's different. I don't think of it that way.
You make it sound like you like advertise yourselves with like a little like crayon written sheet.
Essentially what I do.
Like,
let's be honest here. That's essentially what I do.
Speak to people.
and Bill can type it in Arial font. So
right.
It's great. Yes. But I think that's a gift that you have, that you can take something that's not as concrete, and I would use the word abstract, and make it more concrete in the way of breaking it down in a business setting. And that is really, entrepreneurs have to be able to do that. Like, how do you sell yourself? And I can imagine like so did you see success? Like, let's say like the Whitnell example, like, did you see success off of that, of sending these DMs and then people coming out and being like, oh, I got your message on MySpace, which was new and cool. I know for the younger listeners at the time, like MySpace was the shit. And I'm wondering, was that like a thing that worked?
Yeah, you kind of like A/B test your way into figuring out what works and what doesn't, right?
Right.
We tried a lot of stuff that didn't work. but that's part of the learning process. Whether you're starting a band as a 16-year-old kid, or you're building a side hustle, or you're at your main gig that puts most of the food on your table or whatever. Like people, I don't know, whatever. I'll say it this way, the amount of Gary V content I've consumed in the last week and a half since you guys asked me to come on the show is staggering. But that's essentially most of what he talks about, is try things, figure out what works and what doesn't, find things that you're passionate about, because you'll push through the hurdles of failing multiple times while you figure out how to succeed.
Love it.
Yeah, and as somebody else that has also watched his fair share of Gary V,
don't we all?
I had to, there was a point where I just started backing off, where I was like, I'm just gonna get stuck in the cycle of watching this and never doing. So eventually I had to just be like, okay, I gotta calm down and
back a bit.
And I was cursing out everybody I knew that started
Ellen
business.
was just constantly shouting out F-bombs everyone that walked past him, so it was great.
So besides approaching a band like a business, you've had many ideas of things to to start a business with. I mean, was there anything that in particular sticks out to you as this is something that I could really run with? Do you remember one of those first things?
I will tell you, as this is probably 5 years ago now or so, fall of 2016, I started to have an inkling to start something. And I was kind of going through that internal research process you do in your own brain, what do I actually care about, whatever. And you guys know this about me, I'm a pretty big gamer. So how I de-stress is I like to boot up my PC and play games and kind of escape for a little bit and let my mind wander, defrag, call it whatever you want, right? Well, while we were in college and I'm going to school for marketing and entrepreneurship and starting my career, one of the games that I played a ton of was World of Warcraft. Okay. Carries with it a certain stigma in certain circles and stuff like that. But while I was in college, I had the ability to know life that game. I poured everything I had into that thing, that I wasn't going to school classes or whatever. Saved me a bunch of money on the weekends. My buddies would go out and drop $100 at the bar or whatever. I had I had 2 cans of Mountain Dew and a thing of Reese's, and I was good.
It's arguably a healthier lifestyle than the ones that went to
you know what?
I guess
could be.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm living proof of that, I suppose. But
it's all about balance, right? Absolutely.
Right. Also, way to lean into every gamer stereotype. Be I had the Mountain Dew.
I was expecting was the other one.
Yeah, I absolutely lived it. I was a little bit skinnier than the South Park recreation of that, but it's still one of my favorite episodes of that show to this day. But anyway, I realized, because as I was playing this game, one of the things you can do in the game is you can work with other people playing the game. We're talking 10 to even 25 player groups of people to fight bosses and get loot and gear and stuff like that for your character. What I ended up doing is organizing my own group of people. Okay. And before you know it, I'm leading, they're called guilds, so I'm leading a guild that is the 4th or 5th best guild on my server as far as progression content of killing the hardest bosses and stuff like that.
Right.
But I realized this later, I essentially have started another company just inside of a video game. Right. I had to recruit dozens and dozens of people. And by the way, the way that things work is there's different people who specialize in doing different things. Much like in an organization, you've got, HR and marketing and sales and supply chain and stuff like that. Very similar at the highest, most simple level. You've got different people doing different things inside of the game. And so you have to recruit talent. You have to have reasons for them to stay with your organization versus go somewhere else, all kinds of stuff. And as I started my working career, I realized, as a guy who graduated with a degree in entrepreneurship, I had learned more about running a business and being a leader in the business world by playing a video game than I had in the vast majority of my collegiate classes. Because again, it's real world experience. You fail 100 times and you get to learn things along the way.
So stay in school, folks. That's what the message is here.
Stay in school, but stay busy outside of school.
It's really about augmenting your experiences and learning everywhere you can.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So back in 2016, I'm, a few years into my working career at this point, but I had a hunger for more fulfillment outside of it. And I realize, as I'm thinking about my early career, and I had been rising up the, call it, corporate ladder pretty fast for a young guy my age, and what to attribute that to, I realized it was, playing video games that gave me a really big boost. But there's obviously a big stigma attached to that. Not like I can go into, a job interview and in the same way you could say, yeah, when I was in college, I played, professional football, and people would immediately understand if you were in collegiate sports that you are dedicated, you work well in teams, right. You break down barriers and you overcome obstacles. And those are all really positive traits to look for when they're going to hire somebody onto their team. I can't be like, well, I played World of Warcraft and I led a guild of, 60 people and we were the fourth best guild on our server. Like that's not going to, right. That's not going to mean anything to anyone.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it became my internal mission, and this is a fire that still burns. It's just through different avenues today, one of which is talking about it. But it became my internal mission to fight that stigma in gaming and find ways to make gaming more mainstream and just acceptable in the, call it, popular culture, vernacular, you name it. Right. Well, at the time, esports was a big thing that was in its infancy, but ballooning extremely rapidly. So what I ended up doing was saying, I think I'm going to start an esports organization. And, Jim, I think I utilized some of your knowledge and expertise for this.
Specifically, I remember this quite well. We were at the now defunct bar Rivalry on in the Third Ward.
Side note, you did not like at all, right? I remember you coming up.
The bar was terrible. And here's what. Well, first of all, it was the concept was that it was a Wisconsin and Illinois bar. Top floor was Wisconsin, bottom floor was Illinois. Doesn't work. Just generally that concept, people you don't go to that, but you want to go to your own bar.
I was there
to a bar where there's Packer fans above and you're embarrassed. That just doesn't work. Second thing is they had a list of championships for Chicago teams downstairs and did not have the White Sox World Series on the list. They had the Chicago Fire Championship on this list.
Yeah, of course. The MLS champ.
So I asked, I was like, what? They're like, oh, sorry. And I was like, I literally was like, this place is going to close. I was so mad. And sure enough, it did. Moral of the story. So I was really pissed off, but we were at Rivalry while all the wives were at book club at the Hookham's house. Shout out to Hookham's, but it was me, you, Nick, and maybe Spencer Gantz. I don't remember
Yep, I think he was there. I think Sam was there as well.
You basically gave us a poll, and you were like, I want to hear your thoughts on these. And then while the guys started separating, you and I talked more after over several beers of what are your thoughts? How will this work? So it was really cool to see. I could tell how passionate you were about it and what was kind of coming and really in the stages of that. So yes, I remember the info sharing session quite well and brainstorming in the bar that sucked, but our company was really good. That's all that can
Yeah, I think I had a PowerPoint deck because I was essentially just compiling information and trying to teach myself, like, how big's the market, what's the opportunity, all the things you need to essentially know, regardless of the business you're starting. Is there a space for me? What's my angle? How do I, break into the space? How do I carve out a niche, and what makes me different from anybody else? Right. And I think I had a PowerPoint deck that was like 60 or 70 slides long with, random thoughts on it, or clippings from articles and research I was doing or whatever. And Jim, we're at this bar and I'm going, okay, so I've narrowed it down to like 5 options for the name of the team.
Yes.
And I remember one of this is key, because one of my call it angles was in esports at the time, in its infancy, there was no localization. And what I mean by that is, you think about any professional sports league that you are familiar with, right? It is the Green Bay Packers and it is the Chicago Bears. And Jim, you're a Chicago Bears fan because your parents lived in Illinois and that's where you grew up.
And I'm a moron, but yeah.
Well, you could say that about.
Can't speak to that.
Yeah. I'm a Packers fan because my parents were 90 minutes north, and that's all. That is basically the reason, right? Well, in esports at the time, there was no reason for you to be a fan of one team or another, other than, well, that team wins all the time. So the team that wins gets the most fans, and that's like, it's the New York Knicks or the Yankees or you name it, right? There's 1 or 2 teams that had all the brand power, and then everybody else, there's nothing.
Right.
And so that was the angle, was, hold on, if I'm near the forefront of localizing esports, if I can be the first, I'm not going to have the money or the resources to like go compete with the guys that are at the top of the heap now. But if I can make the first Milwaukee team, and it takes me 2 years to get it off the ground and running, I can create enough brand equity and have enough momentum that I could probably sustain a like Milwaukee market into the Madison market of people who are esports fans of a particular game that we're going to go play.
Yeah.
So in a nutshell, that was what I wanted to do. And I got so close to executing it. Like, I have LegalZoom still sends me emails because they want me to like re-up with them to do my business taxes and all kinds of stuff. Like I had a domain name, I registered the LLC, like I was ready to go.
Right.
And then a crazy thing happened. And you guys know this well. Anybody who's an entrepreneur knows this well. Life throws you like a curveball that you do not expect. And you cannot plan for, you cannot prepare for. So I literally filed for this LLC, bought a domain, and was ready to go. And 2 weeks later, I moved to Memphis, Tennessee. And just like, nope, sorry, localization, Milwaukee market, I'm in Tennessee now. There's nothing I can do.
Man, there it is.
Oh, man.
Yep.
Is there any kind of, okay, so I'm going to be a little bit absent-minded about esports, because I know there's like, like when we were in college, I had a couple friends that were watching people play games. I don't remember what games. Could have been WoW, could have been anything.
Yep.
They were watching them, and I remember seeing them, like they would tune into these, like an esports game, and I'd be like, at the time, like, you guys are watching people play video games? Like, why? I was like, what is the point? Why don't you just go play the game? You're on the computer. We have Breaking and Entering has a Twitch channel now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we
Yeah.
like fast forward.
People have caught it up, right? Yeah, exactly.
At the time, 2013,
you wouldn't even fathom someone doing that.
Exactly. Like, it was absolutely wild to be like, you're gonna watch people play. And I was still in the minority of people that were like, and they win this much money for this. Like, and now I get it. You know what I mean? Like, now I'm of the belief that we are going to get to a point where, high schools have esports teams now. Like, we're going to get to the point where
only growing.
When there's another generation under us, instead of going to like your kids, basketball game or football game, you might be going to their esports meet.
Right. You guys, I don't know if you know this, but Marquette University has a
They sure do.
sanctioned esports program.
Yes, they
Yeah.
do. Yeah.
A lot of colleges are moving in this direction, but at the top, they were like one of the first, by the way,
Right.
trailblazers. A lot of colleges had, a club esports team that was student run and that sort of thing. There's still a lot of student involvement, don't get me wrong, but
Mhm.
Marquette was one of the first like D1 collegiate programs to go, no, we're going to put some resources behind this and a little bit of backbone
Right.
so that we can grow this for the future.
Yeah. So is there a professional team that is now localized? Because I know it's like the big one. There's like, is it FaZe Clan? Maybe.
Yeah, that is
the
one
name?
of the biggest
one of the
brands.
teams?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Yes.
right. Okay. So obviously
Yeah.
not a very good gamer. Bill actually knows that I'm not a good
Well,
gamer.
I suck at this. Is not. Yeah.
An aside,
I'm terrible at it.
we went to go we were going to be in a band. We went to one of the other guys' dorms and they were playing Halo.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, no, I got it. Totally going to play some Halo.
Yeah, that went well.
I couldn't figure out how to look up and
use a
just kept getting destroyed because I was always like a FIFA Madden guy.
Yeah.
I was never a first person shooter guy.
Well, so Bill, obviously you moved to Memphis, right? And things get derailed, of course. I think like, and to your point, like life is going to happen. And I think that's like so I guess moral of the story is you still have your fire for that idea, for entrepreneurship, for just things and passions that will never go away, which is great. And while that may not materialize, I know your life is now in a different place with having a child, et cetera. But I think it's okay. Like it's okay for those things to happen. Like I think that's a big takeaway I have from your story. Like you put something together that was amazing and really probably could have had some feet on the ground, and then life changed. And like that's the way it works out. But we can't be afraid of that. Like I think for a lot of folks, like they're like, well, what if I do all this and like it doesn't come to fruition? Okay. Like still do it. Like what's going to stop you? So like you don't have any regrets from the time that you put into doing all that and knowing now that like obviously things have changed, but you like you know what I mean? That's I would love to like get that sense of like there was a lot of time and energy and effort for you to do that and put it all together. And obviously it didn't go the way that you wanted it to go. However, you probably learned a lot and you probably had a lot of takeaways from that whole process. And, would you have changed anything? Like you can really look back in hindsight almost in a way, but can you speak to that a little bit of like the reflection of that sort of process and what that was like? And now looking back from, what is that, 6 years ago of how that all went down?
So you're right. I absolutely wouldn't change it for the world. And the things that I learned going through the process, getting ready to set up a business and everything we just talked about has helped me take my, call it day job and working career to completely different levels. So like, I think the biggest message I have for you and anybody else listening at home is if you are interested in entrepreneurship, what I've found is it doesn't mean you have to even start a side hustle. You can apply all of the same logic, all of the same thought processes to whatever it is you're doing, whether that's like the thing that gives you your actual like big part of your paycheck, or just the way you invest in other people and interact with them and stuff like that. I'm extremely lucky because I work for an organization that is very large. It's a very safe job, right? We're growing like crazy, but at our heart, we are very entrepreneurial. So I guess my big thing is that I get to apply and be an entrepreneur in my day job, like all the time. The way I had 10 people reporting to me at the close of last year, right? So team's growing and the business is growing, everything's going well. I hired 7 of those people in the last 12 months.
Wow.
Like expanding the team extremely quickly.
Yeah.
And I tell every single person that I'm working with, what I actually want from you is for you to think of your job like a small business. You are a subcontractor, if you will, that this company has hired to do something for them. You know, whether you're in accounting or you're in marketing or you're in supply chain or wherever else, what are the things, like, how can you do that job? How can you do it more efficiently, more effectively? What are the barriers that are in your way that allow you to grow your business within the confines of the larger corporate entity, if you will?
I love it.
Sure,
Yeah, that's such an empowerment. I mean, I think, you know, what I found is, like, and I've said this before, like on LinkedIn and some other social media, is a good leader will make people have confidence in leadership, but a great leader will make people have confidence in themselves.
Yeah.
And that's really what separates it. And that's
Totally.
I mean, Bill, your message to people like that, like, they're going to be like, hell yeah. Like,
Right.
I can do that. Like, I'm empowered to be able to go out and maybe make a couple mistakes and learn from those failures of how I'm going to be a better leader in what I'm doing. And also, like, it's their brand within the organization. I'm sure everyone that you're managing right now will find their way to move up based on that mindset. Like, that entrepreneurial mindset, it's really critical to have. And people notice that, like, when you make your own thing and develop that within the organization and where you're planted, that speaks volumes. And that's a really good opportunity for people to go. But like, that's the confidence to have in themselves versus like, well, Bill's great, I want to make Bill happy. Like, they're probably not thinking that way. Like, the fact that you tell them that, like, them going in a way that's going to be empowerment to themselves is going to be all that they need to succeed. So I love that, like, your experiences through doing, you know, this quote unquote stopped venture is what's making you make dividends, you know, in the future, both for your organization and for the people that you manage.
Yeah, I think to that point too, like, you know, I was always somebody that grew up and was thinking like, okay, this needs to be a thing. Like, it was never, you know, we couldn't play just, you know, basketball in the driveway. It was like, let's organize a league. It wasn't, you know, like, let's go skateboarding. It's like, we're gonna have a team. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was always like that. And so I think like some people have that where they're just kind of, they think in that sense all the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's innate to be like, I'm going to form a thing, you know, whether they like it or not. They like, it's their compulsive to like form a thing. And I think, Bill, you've got that where, you know, you're thinking, I need to form a team. I need to form a whatever, you know, form a business from that. And that helps you now professionally though. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It really feeds directly into it, I think.
I mean, guys, that's really high praise coming from people like yourselves. I look up to both of you as people who have decided to not only make that plunge, but stick with it through the twists and turns and the curveballs and stuff like that. You guys both have, you know, thriving ventures that you're captaining. So it's been a blast.
38 minutes in to get a compliment, but I'll take it. Damn, that was a long time. I'm kidding.
Yes, thank you.
The feeling is very mutual. Yes, thank you.
So I have to ask though, now that you're back in Wisconsin and things are, you know, a little bit more settled, let's say, does the idea ever come back to be like, you know, I could do it. I could do something, or, you know, something similar, something in the esports world. Does that ever kind of still kind of irk you a little bit?
The fire and the passion is always there for the topic or the subject, if you will. But I'll say this, there'll come a time when I'm going to jump back in. I don't know what it is yet. I'm confident that I'll jump back in. But it'll take me uncovering an opportunity to reach that end goal of helping, you know, the conversation or the stigma of people playing video games and helping people understand how that can be a value add, because you can learn really important things from all experiences in life. When I figure out what that thing is, I'm not going to hesitate. I'm definitely getting back into it. But as I just said, I've got all of this opportunity, even in my, you know, call it my day job, to affect the people around me and to build, you know, several mini small businesses, and then through entrepreneurial mindsets, improve them and add more to my work, like to my output, but to also the people around me.
Love it.
It's tough to know when that's going to happen, but I've got so much opportunity at my fingertips. I just know that that as long as I'll say it this way, as long as I keep looking at my opportunities in front of me and leaning in and saying, yes, I want to go figure that out, and not being afraid to make mistakes along the way, then wherever it takes me, I'm going to have a blast getting there.
Hell yeah.
I like it.
That's awesome.
And we are now along for the ride.
Yeah, I'm in. I love it.
That was it. Now I'm sold.
Yeah. Well, that's a perfect. So
I'm going to learn how to play a video game.
Yes. Caught me in. I'm sucking at it, but we're good. Bill, if first of all, thank you so much for sharing your story and hearing all about this. If people want to find a way to meet you and understand maybe a little bit about your journey and how to just getting some tips on entrepreneurship, what's the best way to do that?
You know what? I think I'm double checking as we're talking right now to make sure that my account is like not on private or something like that. But I guess I would give out my Twitter handle, which is at Bill McCormick.
Oh, that's
easy enough.
Perfect. Yeah.
I got one of the OGs. I snagged it early.
Oh my gosh. How many Bill McCormicks out there are vying for that? Yeah.
I claimed my name. It's just me and a guy in Spain. And we both bonded over Blink 182.
Perfect. Yeah. No,
I sent him a picture when I was at a Blink 182 show, and then he sent me one back.
I tweet at the fellow Jim Loves on our birthdays. That's what we do. Happy birthday to that one. Yeah, it's good. It works out. Well, Bill, thank you so much, man. It was a pleasure, obviously, to talk to you, and I know you have a great story to share, and we just appreciate all the insights and advice and kind of a different angle today. And I think it's really valuable for our folks to understand where you're at and how that goes. So we really appreciate it. And I'm going to give it to Alan because Alan, you usually close us out.
And I'm going to pass it right back to you because I got a surprise for this one. So Jim, just tell us where they can find the podcast. I have to go look in those CD kits.
I can tell you. So if you are new to this podcast, welcome. If you are been listening to this podcast for 2 years, also welcome. We're excited to have you out. We are everywhere. You can find your podcast, Apple, Spotify, all the great places. You can also follow us on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Alan is like all up in my grill right now, wherever he wants to be right now. And the fifth one is on TikTok. So we're all over the place. We're at Hustling Sideways. If you want to be on this podcast, you can find us. Email us at hustlingsideways@gmail.net. I'm kidding. Gmail.com. And we will happily respond to you and DM us anywhere you want to. Obviously, Bill talked about originating the DM, so we would love to have you follow suit from Bill's wonderful practices and make that happen.
I think I knocked the camera out while you did that, but fine.
I did. I'm sure it's fine. But I was stalling hardcore there because you want me to do that part. So what do you have here for yourself?
So anyway, if you do want to check us out, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. But Bill is an effective salesperson because there's not one, but 2 CDs from Bill's former band, the Heroes of Valhalla here.
That is incredible.
That's awesome.
I wish I would have thought about this sooner and not had to go like,
wait, maybe the play out music today can be a cut from one of these songs.
Absolutely. There's no copyright. We got it.
Oh, we're doing it. We're doing it. Yeah. So when this episode is over, one of Bill's wonderful songs is going to be played as our play out song. And that is awesome.
There we go. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I was just going to say, Alan, can you rip me those and send them over to me? I have the most recent one, but I literally don't have the earlier one.
I bought the earlier one online. I was like the one.
Oh my gosh. I want to document that. First of all, that's amazing that you bought it online, a CD. Second of all, Bill is asking for his own CD to be ripped and sent to him. I want to acknowledge that that's a funny request. But Bill, thank you so much. And for those of you, we're going to sign out.
Yeah.
And on that note, keep on hustling.
See you next time.